the console as a digital download, that it's a $50 add-on. But if you buy the game itself, this got a lot of attention. I don't know if you've seen. $80, that's a lot for a game. I know it's typically not what Nintendo charges. And then we look at the Donkey Kong game that's coming out about a month later, it's $70. Can you talk a little bit about how the gaming pricing strategy is $80 kind of the benchmark for a AAA game from Nintendo? What should we be expecting in the Switch 2 generation as far as how much we're going to be spending on these games?
Yeah, I would say that we're not really looking to establish a benchmark for pricing. We look at every game and every experience and determine what we believe is the right price point based on that experience. You've had a chance to play Mario Kart World and see how deeply immersive it is and how fun it is.
3 weeks later.
Of course, 2 random items out of nowhere. And how did I lose my gold shell? Can anyone explain why I'm losing my items?
See how deeply immersive it is and how fun it is.
Gaming has become an odd hobby, where the things you own end up owning you. A dystopian nightmare. Come, children, come! It's time for the Nintendo Switch 2. The worst kept secret in gaming. Everyone knew that this thing was coming out, and the leaks were all over the place.
Photos of the Switch 2. Factory prototypes have leaked on Chinese website.
Probably why they switched it to Taiwan, to teach those tricky Chinese.
Rumors leak photos Nintendo Switch 2 design. While the image is unverified, one source who's not seen the final Switch 2 console, but has been briefed on Nintendo's plans, told VGC that the Reddit images match what the company has told partners to expect its design to be, yada yada yada.
Frankly, you can see everything, even the lead designer's butthole practically.
I got you this time, you sexy prick.
This was either a massive or Nintendo's marketing genius to get people hyped. In January, third-party company Genki pulled a move fit for a segment of Sergon Akkad's Today in Stupid when they leaked the Nintendo Switch 2 at CES. It let people actually handle the mock-up of the new console, take photos, and even measure it. Surely nothing will go wrong and everything will end well here.
Spoiler alerts, Nintendo sued them. Subscriber die! You heard my dog.
Nintendo states that the images at CES 25 of the Nintendo Switch 2 are not official.
That's how you could say, like, yeah, that's it, but it's technically not. I don't even know what the point of this is. Nintendo, for some reason, denied the leaks were true on January 10th. Then did a launch trailer to confirm that the leaks were true 6 days later, which makes a lot of sense if you don't think about it.
All the leaks were true. That leak was spot on.
This looks exactly like the leaks. All the leaks were true.
Just like the leaks?
The exact same thing the leaks have shown us.
Wow, every leak was literally right.
The leaks were real!
We're going to fast forward in time to Nintendo Direct. The Nintendo fanboy streams lost their ever-loving minds.
Performative, fake, without value. Everything's expendable when nothing is genuine.
Wario!
I've never seen so much collective joy in one place for anything, especially a video game console launch. I thought that the iJustine coverage was like peak Arrested Development.
Mario Kart World was sick. Wow, this was by far the most energy at any event that I've ever been at.
But this was just a whole other level. Good lord, look at these people. Absolutely losing their shit. I don't even know what to make of this, dude. I've never been this happy ever in my life. Ever. Maybe when I was a kid. And then my mother quickly put an end to that. I know you're not my therapist, you son of a bitch.
But the joy and jubilation subsided when Nintendo told their fans how much their beloved Mario Kart would cost.
Money, please! Mario Kart World on the Switch 2 will cost $80. Nintendo is the first publisher to break the $70 price limit with its upcoming racing game. Money, please!
Nintendo didn't want to wait for Grand Theft Auto to come out in May of 2026. They were like, we need the yen now. Hold on, I have an interpreter app on my phone.
私たちは今、お金が必要です。
Keep in mind, games for the most part didn't go crazy in prices over the years. I banged on this drum before.
Flashback.
In the middle 90s, game pricing was here. Do you think that the $20 to $30 inflation for Nintendo is valid? It's been 20 plus years.
Alright, using old Nintendo games costs more as your argument is lame and gay. Those are cartridges made with materials like plastic and copper. Some even had physics chips built into them for certain games. The game boxes came with manuals, posters, tchotchkes, stickers. All the stuff was in the base. Plus, there was no season pass. There was no extra bullshit they could put onto it. You got everything up front. In this day and age, when you got stuff like that, that's the special edition where they want $120 for it. And the fact that digital games cost $80? What type of BS is this?
End of flashback.
Nintendo also decided to milk you for past titles of games that you could go on eBay and buy for around $40. You want to play Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch 2? That'll be $70, please, if you don't already own it, I think. God only hopes. Twitter obviously wasn't feeling it. And of course they wouldn't. It's unmitigated greed.
They don't justify it. They just know people will pay these prices. What they're doing to gaming is disgusting. That region-locked $330 Switch 2 in Japan is one of the most egregious things I've ever seen them do, and that's saying something.
For those who don't remember, Switch 2, cheaper in Japan.
So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
When I saw the news of the region-locked console, I almost spit out my drink. I'm not convinced Nintendo's top brass doesn't drive around Kyoto snatching random fans off the street, harvesting their kidneys, laughing all the way. They hate their customers.
Could be they hate Americans.
The live stream showing off the new Donkey Kong Country was met with a bit of joy, but a lot of people demanding lower prices.
I felt a great disturbance in the force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
Drop the price! Drop the price! Drop the price! Where's Diddy? Drop the price! Drop the price!
Diddy's in jail.
The Switch 2 launch price was announced, and it was $450. Gamers weren't overjoyed. Nintendo fans would pay any price, and scalpers were chomping at the bit to bot up all the pre-orders.
Nintendo Switch 2 launches in June 5th at $450, bringing new forms of game communication to life.
New forms of game communication? How? What's the new for? Oh, they got a web camera. Haven't seen one of those before.
It's wonderful, isn't it? Wonderful.
Then Liberation Day hit and tanked the market. If you knew how to invest and you had a minimum of $100,000 just laying around doing nothing, you made money off of this horrible chain of events.
For everyone else, it was literally Tuesday. And then Wednesday, things were going to cost more, so it sucked.
The world is burning.
Memester bait.
Fears of a Switch 2 price hike began to spread like a California wildfire. Social media was just riddled with people screeching into the heavens.
Nintendo delays Switch 2 pre-orders in response to Trump's tariffs. Proposed tariffs could raise prices to nearly 50%.
No one expected Trump to tariff every damn thing, which I'm sure took the Japanese by surprise.
Someone at head office shouted out loud, "Something wrong!"
Nintendo has delayed the Switch 2 pre-orders in the US to assess recent tariff impacts. The thing is, Japan usually has their stuff made by China. Surprisingly, I know. It's really weird to order something from Japan and you find out it's made in China. So Nintendo was like, okay, Trump is gonna like tariff the ever-loving out of China. So then they go, Japan went with
Vietnam.
Apple went with India. Que sera, but Trump just tariffed everything, and it really threw everybody out of whack. Canada's Switch 2s were also delayed due to the tariffs on America, which pissed off those maple syrup eaters even more than usual, to the point of where they had to let people know they weren't American.
As if that was going to change something. Like, Nintendo's going to check Twitter and see you're not American. No.
Switch 2 pre-orders delayed in Canada too. Canada suffers because of the US government's stupidity. As if Canada didn't have enough reasons to hate Donald Trump, the reality TV star turned politician, excessive tariffs will delay the Switch 2 pre-orders, not only in the United States, but the Great White North as well.
This is the Kotaku journalist who had an existential crisis while reviewing the PlayStation 5. It went from talking about what it could do to global issues, world hunger, toilet paper shortages, existence as a whole. Kotaku hires the worst gaming journalists in the business, bar none. Don't believe me, every Kotaku journalist that is fired ends up either working in a grocery store or becomes a waitress. See if you can prove me wrong.
And they've all blocked me so they can suck a dick.
IGN for some reason wanted to let you know that the Switch 2 was a bargain, don't you forget it, and if you use the inflation calculator, you'll see that it's not that badly priced. You know what this does for me? It reminds me that our money is absolutely worthless and that our lives are an empty shell of what they once were even 5 years ago, dude.
But hey, bye now.
Or as they say in Japanese, Ima konyu shite kudasai.
He's sexy without knowing he's sexy, and that's really sexy.
On the 9th of April, Trump put the tariffs on a 90-day hold, to the relief of everyone.
90-day pause on tariffs was just announced. Can't imagine retailers want too much longer to get Switch 2 pre-orders going in the US. April 9th was already cutting it close as is. But Trump pauses tariffs hikes for 90 days against most countries.
Spoiler alert, it just ended.
Well, the 90 days is up, and China was lowered to, 35%? And because the Japanese didn't want inferior American rice, I'm not even joking, a 25% tariff has just been put on Japan, so expect Nintendo Switch peripherals to cost more. Dude, there's like this video clip, I don't know if it's real or not, but Trump's like, they desperately need rice, but they don't want our rice. But they need the rice.
They need rice so badly, but they won't take rice. I think that was...
Trump threatens Japan with new tariffs amid rice war.
I heard of a hot war, I heard of a cold war, now we're in the rice war.
Welcome to the rice fields, mother...
Once the 25% goes into effect, you can expect the Switch 2 to stay the same price, but all accessories and peripherals for the Switch 2 will go up in price. And it makes you wonder, does that compound? If it's made in another country, they get tariff, then the Japanese ship it, so does that get a tariff for the Japanese too? Are we paying double tariffs? I don't even know. I'm not an economist. I'm a tuber.
That price is not so bad. The game itself is a little expensive. Okay. Now with tariffs, we don't know if the tariffs are affecting this console right now. We do know that in 2019, Nintendo moved production of the console out of China to Vietnam to avoid the tariff war. But as we know today, Vietnam was just hit with tariffs. So we have no idea how that's going to work or anything like that. You would hope that Nintendo might have planned that into the release of the system. But we'll see from there.
Touches so much.
On April 24th, the pre-orders for the Switch went without a hitch and sold out in minutes to mostly scalpers.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
GameStop, the pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 are sold out online, still available in stores.
Oh man, people had to use their bodies. That probably explains why Boogie2988 actually had a photo of him taken in line for the Switch 2. At first I thought that was CGI.
All that complaining and bitching on Twitter about prices in Nintendo just for the Switch 2 to sell out immediately.
People use Twitter to complain, dude. That's pretty much what it is. Twitter is for complaints now. You go on Twitter, you hate on something. If you're a professional hater, people are gonna love it. But if you suck at being a hater, people are gonna hate you. That's Twitter.
This sold out in seconds. Nintendo Switch 2 hype is ridiculous.
Nintendo New York Switch blah 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 midnight launch shopping spree sold out first come first serve. Touch your nuts, who cares?
The console selling out in seconds in New York retailers reeks of scalpers, but that's just a theory, a gamer theory. I'm not even kidding. Remember what happened when the PlayStation 5 came out? There were literal scalpers on the side of the road, and they have like 20 PlayStations stacked on top of each other selling them, bro. Surprisingly, while real Nintendo fans that would love nothing more than to own a Switch and, you know, they'd squeal in delight, play it at night, get all happy and think that life wasn't complete garbage, well, they couldn't get one. But don't you worry, DSP did get a Nintendo Switch 2. And in true DSP fashion, he bought 2 Nintendo Switches. And he proceeded to dox himself live on stream. I know, big brain moves.
Every time I click on it, it just loads endlessly and then it says error, can't complete the order. Well, just ignore me in the corner looking like an idiot. So here it is, from Walmart.com, delivery, pre-order date, my address, there it is, the Switch 2. Yeah, I'll self-dox like you guys don't know my address. It was doxed in 2014, the week that I moved here. You guys already know my address.
Then he shows his order number, which obviously led to trolls canceling his order for him. Of course, DSP is faultless in all of this.
Tell me that both orders have been canceled. Does it say that it's because of an error on Walmart? No, it says I canceled the order. Someone socially engineered my account on Walmart.com, and they got access and canceled my orders. So now I don't have a Switch 2.
Stupid motherfucker. This is all your fault.
And the trolls socially engineered his account. Sure, if you give them all the information, I guess. April 18th, or somewhere around that timeline, the pre-orders sold out and the shilling of the games began. IGN was at the forefront of hyping up the Nintendo Switch 2 games. There aren't that many first-party choices that actually look interesting to someone that isn't diehard Nintendo. You've got Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, which Donkey Kong comes out months later after Mario Kart. I don't even know. But that's besides the point. The thing that really began to bug people was the keycard system.
Switch 2 game cards will have this small key symbol on the top right corner. If you see this, then you will know that it's a game key card that doesn't have the game data on it. Somewhat confusing. There are 3 types of Switch 2 cartridges. LB cards only work on Switch 2. LP are game key cards, and LN cards work on both the Switch 2 and the Switch 1.
A video game company by the name VGP made a stand against Nintendo's practices.
These 3 Nintendo Switch titles have 2 things in common. 1, they are codes in a box release. 2, they will never be sold by VGP. We are already expanding our limits with game key cards. However, the code in the box and SW2 release is where we draw the line.
Nintendo wants full retail price for key codes. This may be fine for some, but when it comes to console games, I want a physical copy of that game. And in an age where Ubisoft wants to take away your rights to even have a dead game on your hard drive or a disc in your hand of a dead game, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. By the way, here's what Ubisoft had to say in their new EULA.
Upon termination for any reason, you must immediately uninstall the product and destroy all copies of the product in your possession.
Thanks, Ubisoft. You suck dick.
This business model is a recipe for future dickishness on an epic scale. Kiss the secondhand Nintendo game market goodbye if this carries on into the foreseeable future. God forbid you make money selling something you own without Nintendo getting a piece of that. Not to mention how gaming companies do a crappy job of preserving their own games for the future, because this industry is no longer run by people who love video games. It's now run by businessmen looking for nothing but profits for their shareholders. Oh well, by the way, they are monitoring you with the Nintendo Switch 2. Audio and webcam if you get one, so don't do it. You can thank Amazon for normalizing companies listening in on your personal life and collecting information on you. How absolutely dystopian is everything now?
During chat session, a recording of the last 3 minutes is saved on device for moderation purposes. If you report someone for inappropriate behavior, it will be sent to Nintendo. Nintendo does not have access to the recording unless someone is reported.
Sure they don't. It just happens to be there, lingering. And Nintendo won't get it unless you press yes.
Get that out of here. Fake bullshit.
If you encounter any language or behavior that might violate applicable laws, Nintendo's agreement with the NOC, you may review the last 3 minutes of the relevant recording communications and use the device.
Blah, 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 blah. That's right. It's a useful feature, quotation marks.
But it's also incredibly dystopian. I'm saying that again. And if you opt out of it, you cannot report anything crazy that happens to you in-game. What a treat. On May 8th, Nintendo went full Ubisoft again.
This is fine. New Nintendo of America policy asks users to give up their rights to a class action lawsuit and call customer service instead. Most matters can be quickly resolved in this manner. No more Joy-Con drift situations then, question mark. Clause 16 of the EULA reads, this arbitration provision precludes you and Nintendo from suing in court, having a trial by jury, or participating in class action. You and Nintendo agree that the arbitration will be solely on the individual basis and not as a class arbitration, class action, or any other kind of representative proceeding. You and Nintendo are each waiving the right to trial by jury.
Sure. If Nintendo wants to sue you, though, they won't rave. They will come for you.
You notice how they didn't waive their right to sue Pal World. Remember also tried to copyright flying mounts in a video game? Flying mounts were around before Bro, Nintendo is garbage.
Anyway, Nintendo says that this is to avoid more lawsuits over stick drifts on the Joy-Cons. I say they were covering their asses over the yet-to-be-announced bricking of consoles. As I've said 1,000 times, if the car industry got as shitty as the gaming companies, they would go down in flames. Imagine buying a Mustang and Ford says, "We will brick your car so you can no longer drive it if you change the exhaust manifold. And you can't sue us for it because it was in the paperwork when you bought the car." Just 2 days later, Nintendo let users know they can and will brick your console if you dare think about using emulation.
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine.
Nintendo can break your Switch 2 for unauthorized use as an anti-piracy measure.
Hackers were finding out Nintendo went to great lengths to combat the system being jailbroken. Nintendo Prime believed that it was near impossible to hack.
If true, Nintendo took it very seriously to make the Nintendo Switch 2 extremely hard to hack. It's going to be many years before this gets cracked. At least 2, maybe longer. Game leaks online via game dumps is going to be a long ways off. In my opinion, this is good news for the general consumer. It will be hacked one day, but Nintendo went all out so far to make it very difficult to do.
Can you imagine how many lives this is going to be saving?
I don't know if this is genuinely good for consumers or not. I mean, people who like to jailbreak consoles are a very niche group of people, in my personal opinion. June 3rd. Ever closer to launch day, Nintendo pulled an Nvidia by refusing to send review copies of the console, which, much like the 5060 8GB, was all hype and no bite. This move will be a real indication of Nintendo's intent to take advantage of the hype to minimize any negative press on launch day. Nintendo even pulled out Paul Rudd to hype up Mario Kart Sunshine Fun Time. I don't know what the hell the game's called. 48 hours after launch, the Switch 2 was hacked.
Yes!
Nintendo Switch 2 hacked. But here's why it's just the beginning. A harmless green line on the screen may have just opened the floodgates for hackers inside the first real exploit on Nintendo's most secure console yet. First user land ROM chain exploit on the Nintendo Switch 2. Oh boy. And now that Switch 2 is brick. Good job. It's not gonna happen.
Day 4.
My Switch 2 test has been banned.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
After using the Mix Switch with a perfectly legal dump of my own cartridges, so it would seem that Nintendo can detect some. Similar reports on Reddit are starting to come in. I strongly recommend that you do not use the Mix Switch. It was already very risky to use, but it is even more so on the Switch 2. It should be 100% illegal to brick someone's device. End of story. Technically, Nintendo hasn't blocked the console, but they have banned the online service, which is perfectly within their rights in accordance with their TOS. Perfectly legal dumps, as legal as my cat.
People were playing a game of around and find out with Nintendo, and they were losing. Because Nintendo had all the red and the blue shells, and they weren't afraid to crack a bitch in the head with a band. Scatterbrained on YouTube used the Mix Switch with the games he owned, and Nintendo bricked his console in the 13-minute video.
It happened. I saw earlier today some people posting on Reddit that their Switch devices were getting banned. I figured, let me see how mine's doing. I didn't do anything wrong. I just tried the Mix Switch on the day of the Switch 2 release, and guess what? Oh yeah. Super banned. I decided I should just film. But if you try to go into the eShop, it just doesn't work. You can't really do a whole lot of anything. I figured, okay, let me try to maybe, back up my save data. You can't do that either. I didn't try clearing the Switch yet. I figured I would start filming. But one thing that is interesting, so I wanted to remove the account, right? So just, delete user. You go next, and yep, can't be recovered, delete, and you can't delete it. You can't delete your account off of your Switch if it's banned because it cannot connect to Nintendo's services.
Onward and upward. On.
Nintendo.
It really seems like a very negative situation for a clearly positive guy that is enthusiastic about Nintendo, exercising his right to modify something he owns. And as a loyal customer that bought those games to put on his Mix Switch, I think that him being banned is egregious. But this shows how little Nintendo thinks of its fan base, or maybe how short-sighted Nintendo is. They're so hell-bent on fighting piracy, and I bet this has a lot to do with Palworld. They're on edge for some reason, and the consumers are the ones that pay for it, yet again. This is what you get for trying to make your console a little bit more convenient. This is why Always Online sucks and it's garbage. It's another way to police and control you, even over things you own that you bought from this company. It's disgusting. Then there was Mutahar Gate. Apparently, he said he wasn't going to buy the Nintendo Switch 2 console, because let's face it, Nintendo is total ass. And I quote, "Vote with your wallet."
Why, I'm not buying that Switch 2 right now, said the Indian guy. The Switch 2's sitting on his desk. Now let me explain, okay? Let me explain myself real quick. I actually had no intentions of picking this device up, but surprisingly, Nintendo has done a pretty good job. Was that a voice crack? God damn, am I slipping through people?
Upsetting his fan base so much that he was forced to apologize.
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and let's just talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. I made a mistake. I ended up buying that Nintendo Switch 2, even though I said that I was going to hold off. I wasn't just going to go buy it outright. And there I was, going on a midnight release, and I ended up picking it, just on a walk-in. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way to sugarcoat or cut around this. I did, in fact, commit a hypocrisy. I made a mistake. I should have not bought this product.
The comment section roasted him worse than my mother roasted me about my bodybuilding career at 16. And I quote, "You'll never be tall and muscular. Give it up." My mother had a way with words.
Frankly, I don't see what the issue was with this one. But full disclosure, my give a damn broke a long time ago. While Mutahar was apologizing to his fan base, Plain Rock was giving Nintendo fans PTSD by going to every Switch midnight release and destroying a new Nintendo Switch.
Oh my god! Darren did it! Oh my god! Darren did it! Oh my god, it's Plain Rock!
First Switch 2 broken! Yeah!
He's a monster.
On June 6th, the day after the launch, the Nintendo Stick Drift, which was a massive issue for the last Nintendo Switch leading to class action lawsuits
that were dismissed,
is present again in the Nintendo Switch 2.
Nintendo says the new Switch 2 Joy-Cons are better, but did they fix drift? To find out, I'm tearing them down. These things are fussy to take apart. To start with, you need a special driver for Nintendo's signature tri-point screws. Then dig under the adhesive secured panels for more screws. Disconnecting the battery was easy enough, but to pry it out I needed a pick and some isopropyl alcohol. I had to call in the cavalry to figure out how to pry off the shoulder trigger, but then how to get to the joystick. There's a trick. Twist the thumb grip, pop a couple of clips on the stick housing, and hey presto, the stick is out. Finally. As I open the joystick housing, I'm starting to lose hope. To fix the drift problem, Nintendo would need to use a different kind of sensor than in the original Switch. Potentiometers just won't do. Most modern joysticks use a potentiometer to read the voltage as a wiper that slides across a strip of resistive material. That material wears down over time, or plastic and dust can dirty the sensors. It is possible to make better joysticks. Full effect and TMR sticks are both drift resistant. But, oh that's right, Joy-Cons attach with magnets. That'll interfere with the Hall effect sensor. TMR is far more resistant to magnetic interference, so maybe? Nope. These joysticks look almost exactly like the old sticks. Same drifty sensors, just a slightly different form factor. Lame.
I guess Nintendo saying the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Con was built from the ground up, and I quote, was a massive load of shit. Nintendo 17th, Reddit users reported battery swelling on the Nintendo Switch. Basically, it looked like an isolated incident where one Nintendo Switch, or maybe two, had a lithium battery issue where it started to swell. It happens from time to time with lithium batteries, which is why they suck. Nintendo has recommended that if you're affected by this, please turn off the console, put it back in the box, and request a return as soon as possible, because if you try to continue to use this, it will blow up, it will catch on fire. Your Nintendo Switch will go up like a Tesla.
On June 20th, third-party sales for the Nintendo Switch 2 have started off slow, with one publisher selling below our lowest estimates.
Cyberpunk 2077 has enjoyed some success in a Nintendo Switch 2, however. At the time of the article, it was number 2 for sales.
According to reports, 62% of Nintendo Switch 2 physical game sales in the US during the console launch week came from the first-party titles. Obviously, why else would you get a Switch if you weren't madly in love with Wario's ass? This excludes the Mario Kart World Bundle, which accounted for the vast majority of console sales in the region.
Wow. As of now, the best-selling third-party game is Cyberpunk 2077, sitting at 4th for the Nintendo. I honestly don't understand why on earth you would want to have worse gaming experiences with third-party titles on the Nintendo Switch 2. So these sales don't exactly shock anyone with a semi-functioning brain. I guess the big takeaway or selling point is it's portable. Once again, most of these games are on the Steam Deck and the library is bigger. But what do I know? Digital Foundry posted their hardware review of the Nintendo Switch on June 20th, and it wasn't glowing when it came to the LCD screen, which explains why Nintendo did not send out review copies and may even hint at them releasing an OLED version of the Nintendo Switch 2 as a planned upgrade in the future. Obviously, everybody sees this coming.
The problem with Switch 2 is that the response time of the pixels, or at least the way it's being driven, is not adequate. And as a result, you actually do see a lot of sort of trails, blur on things. So if you're playing, say, a side-scrolling 2D platform game, like imagine you're playing Sonic on there, Sonic Mania, you get this checkerboard field, you've got a lot of contrasting colors. As it moves, the image essentially leaves behind. If you film at, say, 240 frames per second for like a slow motion video, you essentially get 4 individual ghost images of everything on the screen. Your eyes perceive this as blur. It's actually slower than the original Switch 1 LCD from 2017. This is what surprised me the most, because the nature of modern LCDs, I'm genuinely confused as to how this is the case. It shouldn't be that much worse, but it is. And as a result, it means that 2D games especially, or anything with a lot of lateral motion, just kind of smears in a messy way.
I'd buy that for $1.
We are really paying more for everything and getting less. It's unacceptable. The screen for the Switch 2 is worse than the original Switch 1, but it costs more. Toast. How is this cool with people?
The Switch 2 screen has ghosting, and I didn't even try. It's not as bad as the PSP, but it's there.
Well, the PSP came out like 30 years ago. Hey, hold on. The Switch 2 that just came out 3 days ago, it's not as bad as the console that came out 20 years ago. Well, I would certainly hope so.
Twitter users began sharing their ghosting issues with the Nintendo Switch 2, and of course, Nintendo fans had to show up and shame people.
Absolutely no one is looking this in depth. At this point, people like you are trying to find anything to hate on. But I get it. It makes good views, right?
Yeah, because the money you get from people looking at your tweets is enough to buy a Bugatti Veyron. And Bob replies of,
yes, I'm the problem.
Exactly,
Wellington.
Bob. Nintendo literally selling cheaper crap for more money. And these people are willing to defend it to the end. If I pay that much for a console and I find out the LCD is worse in the current generation than the last generation, I'd be pissed off. You got upsold on a downgrade, my dude. But people pointed it out are the problem. We are truly living in the era of the last man. One of the main criticisms of the Switch 2 right now is the ghosting motion blur in the screen. It's pretty noticeable due to the type of panel used. It could be fixed via firmware update by overdriving the LCD, so you gotta overclock it. But that would lower the battery life. Have you noticed it? Let's not engagement farm dumb shit here. Yeah, so to get less motion blur in the screen, you need to overclock it. And I bet that the screen runs the way it does because the battery might actually swell and get juiced harder. That's most likely the case. If they skimped out on the screen that's now worse than the last one, there's no way in hell they gave you some top of the line battery in that thing. Everything is set up the way it is so that it doesn't die. But anyway, that's just a theory, a jaded gamer theory. I honestly recall Nintendo saying that the LED screen was better than the OLED, or maybe I'm crazy. But then again, they said that the Joy-Cons are brand new and built from the ground up, and it's the same old...
Melbourne.
Would the Japanese cheap out on quality like the Chinese? You know that you're in the darkest timeline. That's just all there is to it. June 29th, Brazil sues Nintendo for being massive dicks.
Brazilian agency formally notifies Nintendo over a console breaking EULA clause. While the popularity of Nintendo Switch 2 is evident in Brazil, some of the provisions of its end-user license agreement have reportedly caught the attention of Procon SP, the Sao Paulo-based branch of Brazil Consumer Protection and Defense Program. As pointed out by the Techno blog, Nintendo maintained the ability to terminate user accounts and to reduce its console permanently inoperable without giving a valid reason to its violation of the nation's Consumer Protection Code Section 8.078-90, which under its own languages seeks to meet the consumer needs to respect their dignity, health, and safety, to protect their economic interests and improve the quality of life, and to ensure transparency and harmony in consumers' relationships, yada yada yada.
I'm not reading the rest of this, you know what's up. Sadly, I doubt this lawsuit will change much of anything. Odds are, push comes to shove, I could see Nintendo cutting their losses and not selling Switches to Brazil in the future. It could happen. Nintendo seems hell-bent on locking this console down at any cost, and with the sales numbers they have right now, losing a small country won't keep them up at night or rice out of their bowl. Just be real with it, dude. Don't even sit there and think this matters. On July 2nd, The Verge posted this article.
How Nintendo locked down the Switch 2's USB-C port and broke third-party docking.
Why? You little piece of dribble piss.
We whipped out a USB-C PD analyzer to test how Nintendo walled its garden this time around. With the Nintendo Switch 2, it should be easy to plug in your new, more expensive console into video glasses or TV when you're traveling away from home. The USB-C makes it so. But Nintendo has intentionally broken the Switch 2's compatibility with those devices, using a new encryption scheme and some form of dedicated encryption chip to accessory manufacturers. But Nintendo has intentionally broken the Switch 2's compatibility with those devices, using an encrypted scheme and some form of dedicated encryption chip. Two accessory manufacturers tell The Verge. We haven't yet found proof of the encryption chip myself, but when I analyzed USB-C blah 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 traffic with the PowerZ tester, I could clearly see the new Nintendo Switch is not behaving like a good USB citizen should.
It's clear Nintendo did this to keep third-party companies chasing them, to protect the console and make sure people only buy Nintendo branded items. For years, third-party companies made accessories for Nintendo people were more than willing to buy at a lower price and get the same functionality. But it's obvious Nintendo really wants to at least try and make third-party such a hassle for normal people that they'll just buy the Nintendo branded ports or whatever the hell it is and call it a day, which makes perfect sense. People want convenience, and they're willing to pay for it or give up their freedom for it.
But that doesn't mean any company can just copy Nintendo's commands and expect their dock to keep working. We do expect Nintendo may further limit third-party docks and accessories via system updates to maintain device and system security. A spokesman from Winnie Chan tells The Verge.
One last bit of dystopia for you before I sleep, because it is very late.
Nintendo speedrunning becoming the worst gaming company. It used to be between Ubisoft, EA, and Activision, but now I'm beginning to see Nintendo probably is the worst of the worst, because they're trying to put an Italian YouTuber in jail for buying a handheld that you can get on Amazon.
Jesus Christ! Who the fuck does that? These poor bastard kids have their whole life ahead of them.
Forget copyright strikes, a retro YouTube gaming YouTuber faces possible jail time for reviewing game handhelds.
That's right. Buy a handheld, they give you a ROM, now you can go to jail.
Basically, the long and the short of it is, he bought the N-Brick, he reviewed it on his channel, that's what he does. He doesn't take affiliate links, he doesn't take sponsorships, he doesn't take any money. But according to Italian law, since Nintendo ratted the dude out, under Article 171 tier of Italian copyright law, this law which originated in 1941 because of course nobody updates jack shit, allowing for the maximum punishment of 15,000 euros and 3 years of jail time for this guy. The police have already confiscated 30 consoles from his home. They took his phone. They made backups of everything. They're about to take down his social media. And they're probably going to take down his YouTube channel before it goes to trial. So he gets the added benefit of losing his normal job and his side hustle. And he gets to go to jail. I don't know how this helps Italy's failing economy. But, you know, it sucks to suck, right?
Because today I received the notification that the procedure to block all my social channels has been started. This video could disappear just like the Instagram channel, Facebook, and everything else could disappear. I risk from 6 months to 3 years in prison, with a fine that, given that the article was from 1941, still in lire, but after doing the various calculations, more or less a maximum of 15,000 euros, for having reviewed Ambernic consoles that you can buy without games, that you can find on Amazon and that the whole world reviews.
This is what companies do. They mess with little people because it's easier to take you down than it is to take down a Chinese company doing all of this. The absolute sheer darkness of all of this. It's dystopian beyond measure. He accounts how the police treated him like a criminal, followed him around, and they said, "We have to be in the car with you just in case you try to flee." The dude's like, "Why would I flee? I'm only reviewing game consoles." The Italian police did look at him and tell him he's the Pablo Escobar of retro gaming. You know, they don't have this energy for migrants to come in their country and mess stuff up. But, you know, if you're a natural born citizen, we'll get you.
Thanks, Nintendo.
Nintendo Switch owner banned for playing used Switch 1 game. Now a different problem has arisen from the Nintendo Switch owner that claims he was banned for using secondhand Switch 1 games that he bought from a Facebook marketplace. Nintendo apparently realized they were secondhand when he attempted to download patches for them. When starting them up on the Switch 2, at this point he claims he was banned. While it's not something that's been widely reported by others, it does raise obvious concerns in the future. According to Reddit, they were able to unban themselves after speaking to Nintendo support and showing them the Facebook listing and photos of the cartridges. What exactly Nintendo thought was going on is unclear, since it's hardly unusual to sell secondhand games, but they likely believed they were pirated games, which seems to be their main concern at the moment.
So now you need to be careful buying secondhand games. This is why the key BS is absolute garbage. Because now they will just assume it's a stolen game and brick your system till you call and provide proof to get your system unbricked, hopefully.
It turns out Nintendo didn't pay this dude any attention till news outlets contacted Nintendo. Then all of a sudden, they realized a mistake.
Yeah. Weird.
Something you never had to do before in the history of buying used games. I guess it's a good thing rental places don't exist anymore, because the Switch 2 would not be something you could rent out games for. This is going to kill the secondhand gaming market for Nintendo, which is a thriving market. Most gamers should avoid Nintendo products, but it's already too late. The Switch 2 is on course to being one of the best-selling consoles to ever exist, if not the best within 5 years. So screw it, I don't care. I'm going to bed. Welcome to the future where you will own nothing and like it. And if you dare think you own something and buy it secondhand, you don't own it, you're banned. Banned. Gone forever. Nintendo Switch is like DSP in the middle of a stream when Koni Karu comes in and asks the wrong questions. No, wait, I'm thinking Snow Carl. It doesn't matter. Okay, this is long enough. Good night, everybody. Subscriber die!